Welcome to another edition of the Fanatics View Hockey Show. My name is James Lynch. Very happy today to be joined by one of my favorite reporters, someone I read all the time. I check out all of his stuff. He's one of the best prospect guys you'll find out there. Dave Hall of the Canucks Army. Happy to be joined here on the Fanatics View Hockey Show. Dave, how's it going?
Doing great, thanks. Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, excited to do this. I know we tried to make this happen last week at the last minute, but I definitely wanted to get you on, and you're one of my, like I said, favorite people to check out when it comes to to prospects and the Canucks. First, I just wanted to start with the overall look of the Canucks offseason. They made a lot of moves. There was a lot of players in, a lot of players out. What did you make of the moves, and do you think the Canucks are a better team or similar to what we were going to be seeing from last season?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely made moves. That's for sure. You can't fault them for that. It was kind of interesting. Like going into the off season, you kind of wondered what direction they were going to go. They had some money to play with, which is nice. Obviously, they wanted a little bit more speed up front and a couple other things. And by the looks of it, it seems like they went the way of the forwards. They obviously spared no expense on the forward group, and I think it's good. Looking at their lineup right now, like they've got depth. For the first time in quite some time, we don't know who's going to make this team. Like there's a couple spots, especially on that left side, that we just have no idea. And so, they didn't go out and get one big fish, but at the same time, they've got quite a few ads here that if they pop, they could definitely add some stuff. So I really like the forward group. I don't mind the stuff that they did on the back end. Obviously we like Zadorov, and I thought he could have been a good fit, especially when we find out what he actually signed for. But overall, I think they get a pretty good grade, and I mean, you can't really fault them on the forward group here. So
yeah, I completely agree. I like the moves they made. It's so interesting that they're so cap conscious with this regime, whereas last regime they were so reckless with it. Right, that was always the issue, is that they overpaid for players, and they were always in sort of cap trouble. And this year they've really sort of instead of, like you said, signing a big fish, they can get a couple different players to get those depth pieces as well. Answer me this question, because I haven't heard anyone actually give me like a good answer on this, and maybe maybe you don't, but all we heard in the offseason was that they were going after Jake Guentzel. And then obviously Tampa Bay swooped in, traded the third round pick. The Canucks don't have the luxury of, having picks and getting the rights and all that. But then Patrick Allvin, the GM, comes out and says that DeBrusk was always their target. Do you believe that? Or do you think they did try and go after Guentzel, and once Tampa Bay made the trade, it was kind of like they didn't have a choice?
Nice. I like that question. To be honest, I don't know if I believe that. I have to think that they were going for a bigger fish, whether that was Necas, whether that was, whoever, Guentzel, whoever it was. I do think they did have eyes on someone. And, obviously now that they have DeBrusk, they want to make sure that they're, making him feel at home and like that he was the guy. But I have to assume that they were going for a bigger fish here. Not that DeBrusk isn't a big, like he's maybe not a huge fish, but he's definitely not small.
Yeah. Any concerns with DeBrusk? I know a couple seasons ago he had sort of that clash with Bruce Cassidy when he was coaching the Bruins. That's maybe the only thing I'd be worried about. I don't mind. I know people don't like the term, but I think that's kind of what you have to pay to get a guy like Jake DeBrusk to come to Vancouver. What do you think about his fit with, I'm assuming, Elias Pettersson? That's why they brought him in.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, yeah, you could be upset maybe with the term, but at the same time, who knows what this cap is going to? I think what he's making right now is pretty fit for the type of player that he is. He's going to combine, he's going to put some points on the board, but he's going to do more than that. He's going to be on your penalty kill. He's hopefully going to be on the bumper roll in your power play. He's going to bring a lot more than just, whatever the $5 million is, that he's bringing more. So overall, I don't have any concerns. And as far as him, asking to leave, I also don't really have many concerns. From what I've heard, this is kind of just me from going off of what I've heard off podcasts and all that stuff. It sounds like the situation wasn't great. And I think he thought that he deserved a little bit better, and he probably did. So, it's kind of funny. As soon as the coach is out, you don't hear him any of those concerns anymore. So I do think that issue was quite isolated, and there was a specific reason for it. So I'm not too concerned about any of that. And even with the contract, I think the contract is fine for what he is. I think in the long run, in 2 or 3 years, this could look like a really good deal.
One of the poll questions I put up for today's show, and I have it in the chat here if anyone is watching and you want to vote on it, but on the community tab I posted how do you think the Canucks will do next season? Do you see them sort of replicating the same success that they had last year? Do you see them being worse with some of the moves that they made, or do you see them being about the same, or do you think it's going to be a disaster? I don't think anyone really voted that. I'm looking on the community tab right now, and leading the way, 44% of people saying they believe this team will be better than last season. Are you in that camp as well, or do you think that we're going to see a similar run to what we saw last year?
Yeah, I mean, the nice thing is the Pacific didn't get any better. So at the very least, I think they're making the playoffs no matter what. I guess I shouldn't make those sweeping statements, but I think there's a very good chance of them making the playoffs here. Just looking at some of the others, specifically, LA Kings and the Anaheim Ducks didn't get any better. San Jose is still a tire fire. So I think regardless, they're making the playoffs. I think overall the forward group, I think they're going to score more goals. I mean, I'm very interested to see what they do with Daniel Sprong. That was kind of a spur of the moment move that I don't think anyone had on their radar, and I love it. This guy, obviously there's some sort of issues that we don't really know about yet. Whether that's character, dressing room, who knows, but he's proven that he can put this puck in the net. And so right now, just as a preliminary, lines, I have him skating with Jake DeBrusk and Elias Pettersson just to see what happens. I just love the idea of Daniel Sprong putting pucks in the net on that line. But I think overall, I think they're going to be a little bit better. Like I said earlier on their defense, I would have liked maybe one more puck mover. I think that's pretty standard across the board with most people. But I think overall, at the very least, their defense got bigger. They got mean. So that's going to be nice for playoffs. So I think overall, they're going to be a little bit better than what they were last year.
Yeah, a lot of things you said there. Let's start with the defense as well. I think the only concern I have, and I think a lot of other Canucks fans do, is that, if Carson Soucy goes down again, it's not going to look so good trying to bring other guys in. I know they have like Mark Friedman and other sort of depth pieces that they can add there. But I agree. I think that's something that could be an issue later on. You hope that Soucy's healthy because he wasn't a ton last year, at least during the regular season. The other thing as well that I kind of look at is, the Sprong signing. Like, you look at the teams that win the Cups, they get those team-friendly deals. Last year it was Florida with Oliver Ekman-Larsson. The Canucks have, this was not a thing a couple of years ago. You couldn't get players to come on the cheap to Vancouver because they just weren't having any success. So, credit to the management group for kind of creating that culture. And I think also selling the players on the coaching staff. It seems like Rick Tocchet and Adam Foote, that is sort of a selling point to a lot of these free agents or, I was going to say fighters because I'm in the MMA world, but no, players coming into the team as well. So I think those are some really key pieces too. Do you see a possibility, one of the things that we're kind of looking at is this Tucker Poolman thing. It sounds like they don't want to put him on LTIR. They want to utilize that cap space in either a trade or anything like that. Do you see that as a possibility where, let's say maybe things aren't going well or they have an injury or two, they utilize by putting Poolman on the cap and then getting that extra cap space? Do you think that's an option?
I mean, everything's an option at this point. I think they're definitely willing to do what they can to get rid of that space, but in this day and age, it's not very easy. So I personally don't see them getting rid of it without some sort of awesome package, like whether that's a Brock Besser or someone like it's going to have to be a pretty sweet package. That's quite a bit of space right now. So I mean, anything's possible at this point, but.